Okay, so we're going to be looking at the USB, Universal Serial Bus. Is that neat enough for you, Kamani? Great. That's what it stands for. But what is it? Well, it's actually known as what's called a standard, which means that companies have to use the same technology when they are using a USB. It allows us to connect peripherals to a computer. And it uses serial data transmission to basically communicate between a device. Let's imagine like I don't know, a game controller which you plugged in using a USB-C. I did that the wrong way around, never mind. And a computer, so it'll be serial what's being used. As I said, it's standardized, which means that every company who makes USBs have to make them in the same way. What we're going to be looking at now are the advantages and disadvantages of using a USB cable. So we're going to look at an advantage to begin with, and that is, as soon as I plug in this USB into my computer, whatever it's connected to, let's say it's a keyboard connected, the device is automatically detected by my computer and configured. That means set up so I can use it. So the drivers, for example, are all set up automatically. So that's a huge advantage. It's just plug, we call that plug and play. Plug it in, do something with it straight away. Another advantage is it's impossible to connect this, to connect the device incorrectly or the wrong way round. It's impossible to do that because if the connector only fits one way. So that's another advantage. I've already mentioned that it's industry standard, which means that every USB cable has to follow the same rules with when they're made. That means you can use different companies' USBs on different devices. Another advantage, they support different transmission speeds. That basically means that transmission speeds. You're going to have some devices which require data to be sent really quickly from device to computer, device, computer, really quickly. You've got some devices which actually require it to be sent at a slower pace for that data to be sent. Therefore, this USB cable can handle both versions, basically. Fast, slow, it can adjust. Another advantage, if I'm a developer of USB software, so basically to let USB work with my hardware or other people's hardware, there's a lot of support out there. You're not by yourself because it's industry standard. So many people are using it. It's easy to get support if you're stuck. Another advantage, it's going to be that it's supported, so USB is supported by many operating systems like Windows or Apple iOS. It's used by so many. Another advantage is called backwards compatibility. What do we mean by that? Well, compatibility, my bad. USBs have progressed over time. So let's say 10 years ago to now, where 10 years ago the cable, let's say this is the beginning, this is where you plug it in, was quite fast. Now, they've developed the cables, they've developed the software on it, and they've made it really fast. Products 10 years ago, let's imagine I've got a really old printer, would be made hoping that this USB cable, the old one, would be able to be used on it, which is fine. But what happens 10 years later if I've lost this cable, it's not sold anymore, but I've still got this old printer? This old printer was using the old USB cables. Well, because it's backwards compatible, that means I can use a brand new USB cable, which is top of the range. I should say really fast. And plug it into here, and this old printer have no issues. They could basically slow itself down. And it'll fit into the slot perfectly. And the final advantage is it's faster transmission speed compared to wireless. So let's imagine again we have a printer. This printer has got a Wi-Fi or wireless antenna, so it can connect to my router. This is my laptop. I press print, so Control P. If it's using Wi-Fi, I'll send a signal, boom, boom, boom. If I was using a USB to connect my computer to the printer, it'll go straight away there like this. And the speed of it being able to travel down the cable is far more quicker than if it was having to send a Wi-Fi signal and pass the data over here and then bounce back over here. So it's faster compared to like a wireless network. But what about the disadvantages? Well, let me just go through the advantages one more time. We've got automatically detects and configures devices. Impossible to basically incorrectly connect a device. It's industry standard, supports different transmission speeds. In terms of developing software, there's a lot of support. For developers, USB developers, it's supported by many operating systems, it's backwards compatible, and it's faster for transmission. But let's have a look at some disadvantages. The first one is going to be cable length. Because the length of the cable is quite short, you're limited with how far away you can connect to a device. So if I've got my printer, going back to that analogy again, and I've got my computer, it needs to be quite close to each other for them to be able to transmit data. If I was using wireless on a wireless network, I can have the printer anywhere in the house, I can have the computer anywhere in the house, and they can still connect. So cable length is an issue. The second, power limitations. This one I'm not going to get hung up on, but some devices can't get charged up by USB. USB is just not powerful enough to charge it. Phones, for example, are fine, but there's other devices which I just can't charge, or it struggles to charge with USB. The third drawback is security. If you're buying, for example, a dodgy cable from a place or whatever, so you're buying it from like a cheap store, there is possibilities that malware could be on your USB cable, which could lead to then data theft when using it. There's also possibilities that you can download things off the internet, which, if your USB is plugged in, could affect and put malware on it, which leads to data theft. So you've got your disadvantages, so cable length, power limitations, and security, but you've got all of these advantages as well. Remember, USB stands for Universal Serial Bus. It uses serial data transmission. It's standardized.